Congratulations on your new baby! We covered pregnancy and childbirth in previous videos. In this one, we'll discuss what to expect and how to handle bringing your wife and baby home from the hospital. My name is Markus, but you can call me Mr. Homemaker. My wife Kristen and I have been together since 2012, and since the beginning of 2022, I've been a trophy husband and stay-at-home dad for our family of 5. I want to share some of the mindset lessons and practical tips that will help you navigate this transition from a couple to a family. Those first 2 weeks are both precious and demanding, supporting your wife through her recovery and the 3 of you bonding as a family. If you implemented what we discussed in earlier videos, you and your wife should already have established some plan for which of her closest friends and family will be visiting or even staying in your home in those early days and weeks. But now that she's on this postpartum roller coaster, be prepared for her to feel differently than she thought she would. While friends and family will be eager to meet your new baby, at this stage, visitors pose a high risk of making your wife feel overwhelmed, self-conscious, and exceedingly scared about germs and dropped babies. So don't be surprised if your wife is less comfortable with visitors than she thought she would be.
Because she's gonna be starting to feel really vulnerable and a little bit anxious and worried because this is her first time being a mom and being in charge of taking care of this baby. The things that you determined before your wife was coming home with this baby may be different now that she's home. She is gonna go through a surge of emotions that are fueled by the chemicals and biology that she is programmed to have to take care of and safeguard that baby. And so just be aware that that is gonna all be going on. And so some things that may seem crazy to you are literally just biology. They're making sure that she is keeping your child safe.
All of these are normal symptoms and side effects of the significant changes your wife is undergoing. Physically, she's dealing with a lot of soreness, fatigue, and discomforts associated with childbirth. And emotionally, she is on a roller coaster of emotions as her hormones level out again. As all this is unfolding, you need to continue advocating for your wife's wishes, just as you did in the labor and delivery room, including sharing changes of plans with friends and family. At the same time, you're responsible for monitoring her for signs of something more serious, like actual postpartum depression, and getting her the help and support she needs from friends and family and professionals like her OBGYN. By serving as the gatekeeper, you provide her with the opportunity to rest, heal, and bond with your newborn and build her confidence as a new mom. And of course, you need to build your confidence as a new dad. Very often, couples spend the entirety of pregnancy focused on labor and delivery, and spend hardly any time at all learning what caring for a newborn is like. So when their baby does something they haven't seen or heard of before, either or both parent can quickly become freaked out. Your job is to stay calm and avoid jumping to conclusions or assuming the worst. Remember that even though this is all new to you, there's nothing going on with you, your wife, or your baby that hasn't been addressed by countless dads before you. An excellent resource to get you started is Be Prepared, a practical handbook for new dads by Gary Greenberg. I wanted a good book to recommend for this chapter of fatherhood, but I honestly didn't have one on my own shelf. I was definitely one of those dads who was planning and preparing through pregnancy and childbirth, and then just figuring it out day to day once my first child arrived. I found Be Prepared, and honestly, based on the cheesiness of the cover and some of the illustrations inside, I was pretty skeptical that it wouldn't have the substance I was looking for. But actually, the content is awesome. There's a ton of valuable information in here about your baby, what your wife's going through, and what dads commonly experience. And a bunch of useful techniques for mastering unfamiliar dad duties. 2 of the most valuable skills to develop early in your child's life are the ability to differentiate your baby's cries and to anticipate your baby's rhythms. In case nobody has told you, there are half a dozen distinct cries your baby will sound to communicate a range of issues like hunger, sleepiness, or a dirty diaper. By being a keen observer of your baby's facial expressions, body language, and your own trial and error trying to soothe your baby, you too can learn this primordial language that countless fathers have learned since the dawn of time. Similarly, while it takes some time before your baby has any respect whatsoever for the actual time of day or night, you can quickly learn how to anticipate and work with the rhythms of your baby's early life. The more attentive you are to the dance that your wife and baby are doing, the more proactive you can be and the better job you will do of improving the tranquility and reducing the stress for all three of you.
One thing that I'm actually just remembering as we talk about this is you're gonna be focused a lot on pee and poop for like weeks. You're gonna have a book and you're literally gonna just write down every time your child poops and what it looks like and what it smells like and is it seedy and mustardy and grainy and now it's this black tar that came out of your child, which is a normal thing, just so you know. These are steps that your doctor is gonna ask you to be able to chart at every one of your visits. And I think you have like a point, you have your appointment while in the hospital, but then I think it's like day 5, day 12, and they're gonna wanna see that your child is having a certain amount of pee and poops, which they'll tell you in the hospital how many times that is. If you can help your wife be in charge of kind of keeping track of that, that's helpful because sometimes she's so tired she's not recognizing that she needed to write it down.
As you get to know your baby, there are going to be periods of stress and uncertainty, trying to figure out what's normal and whether you should be concerned. Be prepared will go a long way to reducing that stress and uncertainty for you and your wife. So check this out using the links below. Beyond that, make it a habit to tap into your own network of family, parenting groups, and particularly other dads with your observations, challenges, and questions. There's no replacement for the support of tailored advice you can get in a real conversation with somebody who has recently gone through what you're going through right now. And that's why I invite all new dads watching this to share your own lessons from bringing your wife and baby home so that the next dad who watches this can learn from your wisdom as well. I know that among the many mental and emotional challenges of being a first-time dad, I really struggled with feeling unable to soothe our baby. All she wanted was her mom. And in the early weeks and months, my experience was that our baby was pretty thoroughly disinterested in me. Not that she didn't like me, she just didn't have any use for me. Your mileage may vary. But regardless, the important thing is to keep your own ego in check and focus on the big picture. Continuously ask yourself, how can I better ensure that my household is operating effectively? And this is a good opportunity to share the secret for how to maintain a fair and equal partnership in your marriage as you welcome your first child into your family. The secret is that you can't and you shouldn't try. Marriage may be a partnership of sorts, and parenting may be a team effort, but as quickly as possible, you need to get the ideas of equality and fairness out of your head. Because there are some things you don't get to decide. Your baby gets to decide them. Particularly if your wife is breastfeeding, but even if you're bottle feeding, your baby is not likely to conform to whatever burden sharing arrangement that you or your wife had envisioned.
Just like recognize the important role that biology plays in moms and dads, right? Like this baby has been inside of your wife for 9.5 to 10 months, if you actually chart it out. This is their comfort place. They're used to her voice and her smell and her sound. So don't be offended if in the beginning the baby really does need her mom or his or her mom a bit more, because that's just the way that they're programmed. And over time, you can certainly help with kind of, skin-to-skin contact and be a part of that.
We'll explore this in more detail in our video series on marriage, but suffice it to say that there are 2 big ways that you can mess this up. The first way is what we discuss in our video on marriage and family roles and responsibilities. When a husband fails to recognize the new functions and duties that come with a baby, they inadvertently leave their wife to bear a number of burdens that her husband should be carrying for her. She feels let down and becomes resentful, while he feels blindsided and unfairly criticized because he can't understand where her frustration and disappointment are coming from. Remember, now that your family is growing, you need to step into the role of household manager and embrace extreme ownership of everything going on in your household. The next big way to mess things up is to constantly try to do everything 50-50. She changed the last diaper, so you change this diaper. She fed the last bottle, you feed this bottle. And she was up all night last night, so now you're going to be up all night this night. This kind of scorekeeping is toxic to your marriage and family. Stay focused on moving your marriage and family toward the vision and goal of a healthy and fruitful household. Fairness and equality are distractions and stumbling blocks on that path. Rather than getting distracted by arbitrary pettiness, you need to shift your paradigm to one of selflessness and generosity. This is a watershed period, and the mindsets and habits that you and your wife establish in these first weeks and months of your baby's life will determine the starting point and the trajectory of your marriage and family life for years to come. With that in mind, a couple quick things. First, as you've probably figured out by now, effectively managing this critical period after bringing your first child home is going to demand all your time, energy, and attention. If you or your wife had big plans to landscape the yard or repaint the house during maternity and paternity leave, just go ahead and get that out of your head right now. Don't forget that this period is temporary. At some point, one or both of you is going to return to work. So you need to think ahead and build in time to establish the new routines that will keep your household on track then, like getting 3 people fed, dressed, and out the door to 3 different locations every morning, and then bringing them all home and resetting for the next day. Given the size and complexity of what you're tackling, I'd encourage you to stop and think about whether either or both of you may want to adjust your maternity and paternity leave schedules. For example, in the 3rd and 4th week after your baby is home, if you can, have a close relative stay at your house so that you can go back to work 3 or 4 days a week without leaving your wife alone. She can continue to get the support that she needs. Then, later, when your wife is ready to return, you'll be able to take a week or 2 of paternity leave then and provide her with extra emotional support through her own transition. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you're finding this helpful, because whether you saw it coming or not, this period you're in now of transitioning from a couple to a family of 3 is one of the most consequential periods of your life. I cannot overstate how the future health and fruitfulness of your marriage and family life will be determined by how you navigate the coming weeks and months. The video series on marriage will be helpful to you during this period, because no matter how long you've been married before this baby arrived, there are significant impacts on your relationship with your wife that come with the arrival of a first child. So good luck, and I'll see you over there.